Most people see a cracked, wobbling bed frame and think it's headed for the tip. But this one, split at the joints, sagging in the middle, and covered in scratches, cost me less than the price of a coffee and a sandwich to bring back to life. Less than £6. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do the same to yours. I know that sounds like an exaggeration. £6 to fix an entire bed frame? But stick with me, because I'm going to show you every single step, every tool, every material, and every trick I used. And you'll see for yourself that it's true. Before we get into the repair, let's talk about why this happens in the first place. Because understanding the problem is half the battle. A wooden bed frame takes an enormous amount of stress every single night. Every time you climb in, roll over, or sit on the edge to put your socks on, the joints are absorbing that weight and that movement. Over years, sometimes over decades, those joints loosen. The wood glue that was originally used dries out and becomes brittle. Screws work themselves loose in their holes. And eventually, you get exactly what we've got here. A frame that creaks, wobbles, and in the worst cases, cracks right through. Most people, when they notice this, do one of two things. They either ignore it until it gets dangerous, or they assume the whole frame is beyond saving and they replace it. And I understand why. A new bed frame in the UK can easily set you back anywhere from 100 to several £100s. Sometimes more if you're looking at solid oak or a proper antique piece. But here's the thing. In the vast majority of cases, the timber itself is completely fine. It's not the wood that's failed, it's the joints, the glue, and sometimes the finish. And all of those things can be repaired, often for just a few pounds in materials, using tools you may already have in a shed or a toolbox. That's exactly what we're going to do today. Let's have a proper look at what we're working with, because before you repair anything, you need to understand exactly what's gone wrong. Rushing in with glue and screws without a proper inspection is one of the most common mistakes people make. The first thing I'm checking for is cracks. Run your hand along the rails and the headboard. You're feeling for splits in the grain, particularly near where screws or dowels go in. Wood tends to crack along the grain line when it's put under repeated stress. And this frame has a hairline crack running along one of the side rails, right where it meets the leg post. Next, loose joints. Give the frame a gentle shake, not too hard. And listen, a healthy joint should feel solid with no play in it. This frame has noticeable movement at two of the corner joints, which tells me the old glue has failed and the wood has shrunk slightly over time, leaving a gap. Then there's missing wood. Sometimes chunks splinter off entirely, especially around screw holes that have been tightened and loosened one too many times. We've got a small section missing on one of the corner blocks here. Nothing dramatic, but it needs filling. Water damage is another one to check for, particularly if the bed's ever been near a window or in a room with damp issues. Water-damaged wood often looks darker, feels slightly soft, shows warping. Thankfully, this frame is dry and solid underneath the surface grime. Paint and finish damage, scuffs, scratches, and worn patches where the original varnish or wax is rubbed away is purely cosmetic, but it's what makes an old piece of furniture look tired and neglected, so we'll be addressing that too. And finally, rot. This is the one that genuinely can be a deal breaker. Press a screwdriver gently into any suspicious soft patches. If it sinks in easily and the wood feels spongy or crumbly, you're dealing with rot. And depending on how extensive it is, that section may need to be cut out and replaced rather than repaired. Fortunately, this frame has none of that. It's solid oak underneath, just tired and loose. So, to summarize what we're dealing with, one hairline crack, two loose joints, one small area of missing wood at a corner block, and a worn, scratched finish. Nothing here is beyond saving. This is a textbook restoration job. Here's where the under £6 claim starts to make sense, because almost everything we're using today is either something you'll already have lying around or something genuinely cheap. If you're starting completely from scratch with none of this, you might spend closer to £10 or £15 building up a small kit. But because most of these materials last for dozens of future projects, and because I already had the sandpaper, clamps, and cloths on hand, the actual out-of-pocket cost for this specific frame came to under £6, mainly the glue and a small tub of filler. Every restoration begins with cleaning, and it's a step people are tempted to skip. Don't skip it. Using the soft brush, I'm working into every corner, every joint, and every carved detail to remove years of dust, grime, and the odd cobweb. This matters more than it might seem because dust and grease sitting on the surface will stop glue from bonding properly and will interfere with sanding later on. Once the loose dust is cleared, I go over the whole frame with a cloth lightly dampened with warm water and a small amount of mild soap, not soaking wet. Wood and excess water are not friends, just enough to lift the grime without saturating the timber. Then I dry it thoroughly with a clean cloth and let it sit for a while to make sure there's no residual moisture trapped in the joints before we move on. Now we need to strip back the old worn varnish so that our repairs and new finish can bond properly to bare wood. For this, I'm using sandpaper rather than a chemical stripper, mainly because it's cheaper, safer to use indoors, and gives me more control over how much of the original finish I remove. Starting with the 120 grit, I work along the grain, always along the grain, never cross it, to cut through the old varnish and expose the timber underneath. This is slow, patient work, and it's tempting to rush it, but going too fast or pressing too hard risks gouging the surface and creating dips that will show up under the new finish. Let the sandpaper do the work. With the surface stripped back, that hairline crack near the leg joint is much more visible now, which actually makes it easier to treat properly. For a crack like this, wood glue is the right choice rather than filler, because the crack runs with the grain and the two sides of the wood can still be drawn back together. I'm using a thin, flexible piece of card to work glue right down into the crack, making sure it's fully coated on the inside, not just smeared across the surface. Once the glue is worked in, I clamp the area to close the crack and hold it under gentle, even pressure. If you don't have clamps, you can improvise with a ratchet strap, or even tightly wound rope with a stick twisted through it to create tension. The old carpenter's trick for exactly this kind of situation. The key is even, steady pressure, not brute force. This needs to sit clamped for a minimum of several hours, ideally overnight, so I leave it well alone and move on to the other repairs while it cures. That small missing section at the corner block needs filling before we can move forward with the joint repair. Now, here's an expert tip that saved me a fortune over the years. Rather than buying pre-made wood filler for every job, you can make your own from the sawdust generated during sanding, mixed with a small amount of PVA wood glue until it forms a thick paste. It bonds beautifully, it's practically free, and because it's made from the same wood you're repairing, it blends in far better than most shop-bought fillers. I press this mixture firmly into the missing section using the putty knife, slightly overfilling it because it will shrink a touch as it dries, and you'll sand it flush afterwards anyway. For deeper or more structural gaps, a proper epoxy wood filler is the better choice. Epoxy has genuine structural strength and is worth using when you're filling something load-bearing, whereas a glue and sawdust mix or standard wood filler is better suited to cosmetic gaps and small surface damage. This is really the heart of the whole repair, because loose joints are what turn a solid, safe bed frame into a wobbling, creaking one. For each of the two loose joints, I first need to get them apart enough to clean out the old, failed glue. A rubber mallet and gentle, patient persuasion does the job here. You never want to force a joint apart aggressively, as that risks splitting the wood further. Once separated, I use the brush to clear out all the old dried glue residue from inside the joint. This step matters enormously, because new glue will not bond properly over old, brittle glue. With the joint clean, I apply a generous, even coat of fresh wood glue to both surfaces. Then push the joint firmly back together, working it slightly to ensure the glue spreads evenly across the whole contact area. Then it goes back into the clamp, held under firm, even pressure. One of the most common mistakes people make here is not clamping for long enough. Wood glue often feels dry to the touch within 30 minutes to an hour, but that's not the same as being fully cured. The bond continues strengthening for far longer than that, so I leave every clamped joint for a full 24 hours before putting any load or stress on it. Once everything has cured, the crack, the filled section, and both re-glued joints, it's time to bring the whole surface together so it feels and looks like one continuous, seamless piece of furniture rather than a patchwork of repairs. I start with the 220 grit sandpaper, working over the filled areas until they sit perfectly flush with the surrounding wood. Then I move across the entire frame with the same grit, again always sanding along the grain to even out the surface and remove any leftover traces of the old finish. Finally, I finish with the 400 grit for a smooth, refined surface that will really let the new finish shine. Between each stage, I wipe the whole frame down with a slightly damp cloth to remove sanding dust. This is a small step, but skipping it means trapping grit under your finish, which shows up as a rough, gritty texture once everything's dry. Now for the transformation moment, the part where all that patient prep work actually starts to pay off visually. I'm using Danish oil for this piece, applied with a clean cloth in thin, even coats, working with the grain. Danish oil soaks into the timber rather than sitting on top of it like a varnish, which gives a warm, natural finish that really brings out the character of the oak grain, including all those subtle variations that make this piece of furniture genuinely unique. I apply the first coat, let it soak in for around 15 minutes, then wipe away any excess with a clean cloth. You never want oil pooling or sitting on the surface, as it will leave a sticky, uneven finish. After it's dried fully, which typically takes several hours, I apply a second coat for a deeper, richer tone. For indoor furniture like a bed frame, Danish oil or a good quality wax polish is generally the better choice over hard varnish, because it's easier to maintain and touch up in future, and it doesn't crack or peel the way varnish can over time. If this were an outdoor piece, that calculation changes entirely. Outdoor furniture needs a weatherproof finish with proper UV and moisture protection, which is a different product altogether. Once the final coat is fully cured, I finish with a light application of wax polish, buffed in with a soft cloth in small circular motions, then buffed again along the grain for that final deep sheen. Before we get to the reveal, a few things worth mentioning that I see people get wrong time and time again. Rushing the clamping time is probably the biggest one. Glue that hasn't fully cured will fail again within weeks, and you'll be right back where you started. Sanding across the grain rather than along it is another, and it leaves scratches that become far more visible once you apply oil or stain because the finish sinks into those scratches and highlights them rather than hiding them. Using too much water when cleaning is a mistake that can actually cause the very damage you're trying to fix, since standing water can seep into joints and cause swelling, or, over time, encourage rot. And finally, skipping the inspection stage and diving straight into repairs is how people end up gluing over problems that needed a different solution entirely, like treating rot as though it were simply a loose joint. Take a moment to picture where we started. A bed frame with a hairline crack running through one rail, two joints so loose you could feel the whole thing shift under any weight, a chunk of missing wood at one corner, and a dull, scratched, tired-looking finish that had clearly seen years of use without any care. Now look at what's sitting here. The crack is invisible, sealed and reinforced from the inside. Both joints are solid. No movement, no creak, no wobble. The filled section blends seamlessly into the surrounding timber. Impossible to spot unless you knew exactly where to look. And the finish has gone from dull and lifeless to warm, rich, and glowing, with the natural grain of the oak on full display in a way it probably hasn't been in years. This isn't a new bed frame. It's a better one, because it's been restored, strengthened, and cared for, rather than thrown away and replaced with something mass-produced. So there you have it, a genuinely damaged, wobbling, cracked bed frame, brought back to full strength and given a beautiful new finish for less than £6 in materials. No specialist workshop, no expensive tools, and no experience beyond patience and a willingness to learn. This is really what restoration is about. It's not about being a master craftsman from day one. It's about understanding what's actually wrong, taking the time to do each step properly, and respecting the material you're working with. Do that, and you'd be amazed at what can be saved. If you enjoy seeing old, damaged furniture brought back to life, subscribe to Timbermaster UK for more restoration projects every week. And if you've got a piece at home you think is beyond saving, leave a comment and tell me about it. There's a good chance it isn't.